Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 15 of What If Naruto was in the Bleach universe. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see part 16 of it, comment down below and let me know. Also check out previous parts of this What If. I have created a playlist for this What If where you can find all the previous parts, link is in the description. And also go ahead and check out other What Ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content, it really means a lot. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Naruto, dressed in his usual street clothes of a dark blue button-up shirt and a pair of black slacks and shoes, walked around the floor under the one his living quarters was situated on to check on his guests. Being filthy stinking rich due to the fact that the world was filled with perverts, and had been for at least the last few hundred years or so, Naruto had been able to furnish the rooms that his inexhaustible workforce of Kage Bunshin had set up extremely quickly after his purchase of the building. Almeida complained about the room Naruto provided him, despite the fact that it was completely posh. Naruto's clones decided to be overachievers when they turned the place out, and there was absolutely nothing to complain about. Each room was fucking awesome, and Naruto knew it, because his clones knew it. So he threatened to clobber the large fat man until he ran into the room, and stifled about his lodgings. Nemu wordlessly settled into her own room. She didn't show an opinion one way or the other. She simply said she would be speaking to him later and left it at that. Weird girl. Sweet, but very weird. Soifon found her room to be more than adequate and told Naruto as much. Each room was more along the lines of a suite, similar to his apartment that he had in his youth. Of course, after hearing that, Naruto offered her a stay in his room for her time there, and she had punched him in the stomach again, and nothing happened, thus pissing her off further. She hated wearing a gigai as much as Yoruichi did for pretty much the same reasons, for a different purpose of course. Wake up, Cole. Naruto yelled as he walked through the hall. Breakfast is in 30 minutes. If you are not there, then I will eat your food and leave the empty plate in front of your door to taunt you. Soifon's door opened to reveal her in her gigai, fully dressed. There's no reason to be so loud, Uzumaki. I'm awake. I was up hours ago. Couldn't sleep? He asked with a grin on his face. You could always have come to my room, Queen Bee, if you were bored and wanted company. Soifon's fist found its way into his stomach, and the grin never dropped from Naruto's face. You'd think by now that you'd know you can't hurt me in that thing. Soifon huffed and began following him down the hall, as they went towards the rooms that the others had taken since she was already up, and might as well find something to do at this point. So how's your squad supposedly coming along? This place seems very empty to me for what is supposedly supposed to be squad barracks and headquarters. Naruto looked at the smaller woman in amusement. I am building this thing from scratch, with no system for filtering and getting recruits the way you guys get. There's no academy for me. He smirked at her, and that's why whoever I do end up with will be stronger than basically anyone in any of your squads in the Sirte. Soifon narrowed her eyes at him. Are you implying that we're weak? No. Naruto quickly said, trying to keep Soifon from actually being upset at him. There was a difference between the love taps he had been getting since their first fight, and an actual angry Soifon after him. I'm just saying. I'm not getting any raw recruits the way you guys get. Everyone I've gotten so far can fight, no need to waste time training them. Well, except for maybe Hidan, but he seems to be getting things fairly quickly. And we're right in the center of the fire, so to speak. Anyone that joins me is going to be awesome. Yoruichi-chan works for me, that should tell you all you need to know. Soifon blinked in shock before going over his last statement. Yoruichi-sama works for you. She said as if it were some foreign concept, but she was a captain. She led the stealth force. How can she work for you, and why didn't she come back to the Soul Society? Naruto shrugged, because she said there was no way in hell. She was coming back just so that she could start all the way from the bottom again. He scratched his head while Soifon gaped at him. It sounds reasonable enough to me. Apparently I'm more fun than the Sirte too. Damn right I am, especially now. He thought to himself, but kept that from Soifon, lest she attempt to kill him for it. So she wouldn't be coming back again. Soifon sounded rather dejected at that thought, until Naruto flicked her forehead. Ow. Uzumaki, give me one reason not to kill you right now. She threatened, holding her head and glaring at him. Naruto pulled his hand back from his flick with a frown on his face. I have free reign to travel the realm, Queen Bee, and so does my squad, if they can find some way to do it. Right now there are 3 of us that can do it. I can go from here to Hueco Mundo, and from Hueco Mundo to the Sirte, but can't go from here to the Sirte or vice versa. Hidan's like that too. Soifon nodded. Well, that's because Hueco Mundo lies between the world of the living and the Soul Society. You need a path through the precipice world to get straight from here to there. But you're saying that Yoruichi-sama. Yes, she can go wherever she wants whenever she wants due to her position on my squad. Naruto said, explaining one of the perks allowed by his group. She's my number 2 anyway. I kind of need her if I'm ever going to pull this off. If you miss Yoruichi-chan a lot, just tell her you want to see her more, or you could come here. I don't care, we've got dozens of rooms, you can stay whenever you want. They went down to the first floor, where there was a kitchen for everyone, and tables for plenty of people in case Naruto ever managed to get the place filled. Sitting at one of the tables was Hidan, hunched over a bowl of cereal. Naruto shook his head as he walked up to the Arrancar who was shielding his bowl like he was in prison. I told you breakfast would be done soon. You saw the clone go into the kitchen and start cooking. Would you get cereal? Naruto then frowned at the type of cereal he was eating. Would you get that kind of cereal? Come on Hidan, the place is stocked, and you picked that to eat. Hidan grunted unintelligibly and continued to eat, taking another spoonful and crunching loudly as Naruto sat down at the table. Soifon walked over and took a long hard look at the silver-haired man, systematically destroying a bowl of cornflakes and milk with a scowl on his face. He was a rather young-looking man, not looking that much older than Naruto's outward appearance, maybe around 20 for humans, and had a rather angry-looking appearance that probably didn't get much happier than what she was seeing now. He wore a black short-sleeved shirt with a bunch of obscenities in kanji emblazoned on it, and black pants with white shoes. For some reason he had a strange cylinder thing around his neck as some form of a pendant or something. So this is the first actual recruit of your team? Soifon said as she sat down next to Naruto across from Hidan, and stared at him, getting him to glare back at him as he continued to chew his food. I don't know, he doesn't seem that special. Naruto let out a laugh, and even Hidan let off an amused scoff at Soifon's insinuation. Naruto patted Hidan on the shoulder, annoying his former enemy. Hidan is very special, my sweet queen bee. I know what I'm doing when I recruit, and Hidan's the man. He thumped him on the shoulder. This is him in a Gigai too. The good kind, the kind where you can't sense his Ryatsu, otherwise you wouldn't be saying that. Hearing that, Soifon raised an eyebrow, so take him out of it. I want to see what this person is capable of. Naruto pointed at her. It just so happens that I won't be doing that right now. Mostly because of how you'd react, partly because Hidan doesn't need to leave his Gigai to beat any hollow weaker than a Menos. Soifon's eye twitched. How does he have a Gigai? The confide and I don't. Naruto and Hidan both smirked as the hidden Arrancar answered her. Because when I was alive, I mastered my body's energies. Every Gigai has the same energy in it, so that it can mimic an actual human body, thus I can control it like I could when I was alive. He drank the milk at the bottom of the bowl and wiped his mouth. So am I special enough yet? Naruto covered Hidan's mouth before he could finish his question with vulgarity. What was he about to say? Soifon asked dangerously. She couldn't hurt Naruto in her Gigai. She was about to find out if Hidan had the same thing about him. Don't start a fight in my kitchen, please. Naruto asked desperately. You can't kill Hidan's body anyway. Well, he's in his Gigai, he's immortal. Soifon slowly reached for what looked to be a duck-headed candy dispenser while glaring at Hidan. Then I guess I'll just have to get him out of his body, won't I? Naruto didn't really feel like trying to come between the Mexican standoff that was going on between Soifon and Hidan, who instead of trying to extinguish the flames of the situation decided to gleefully dump gasoline on it, as he grabbed the cylinder around his neck and extended the spike in it to come out. Soifon held the dispenser right by her mouth, while Hidan held the spike right by where his heart would have been, and the two just stared at each other, waiting on the other to move first. Caught in the middle of what would no doubt end up going too far and wind up destroying his new super sweet base, Naruto held his breath, as he felt that the slightest movement from either of them or him would set the entire thing off. Hey boss. One of Naruto's clones yelled as he walked out of the kitchen into the room everyone would be eating in. That new waffle iron is fucking badass, and... The clone stopped once he saw what was going on, and turned abruptly to go back inside. It didn't feel like being painfully dispelled outside of a battle today. Once again, everyone in the dining room sat frozen waiting for the action to jump off, until a rather sleepy-sounding set of footsteps padded against the floor and walked into the room. Yoruichi walked in with her hair down, and her golden eyes barely open, wearing a small white t-shirt and black panties. Ignoring everyone else, she sat down next to Naruto and leaned against him tiredly. Good morning, Naruto, she mumbled before pulling him down by his cheek, and giving him a kiss on the lips. Naruto gladly reciprocated the show of affection until he realized exactly who was on the other side of him. He didn't even bother turning around first. The gleefully amused expression on Hidan's face as he lowered his cylinder spike device told him all he needed to know. He simply sighed and sat Yoruichi up straight in her chair. I love you, Yoruichi-chan, but you just had to go and do that right here, didn't you? He quickly made the bore hand seal. Swift release. Shadowless flight. He vanished in a blur from his chair just as Soifon swallowed the candy from her dispenser to leave her body and used flash steps in an attempt to chase Naruto down. What have you been doing with Yoruichi-sama? Yoruichi just blinked in confusion at the mayhem that had randomly set off. She then realized who it was that was in the room with them, when she looked at Soifon's artificial soul-possessed body, and blushed in embarrassment. Oops, did I do that? She looked at Soifon's Gigai and then at Naruto's empty chair. He should be okay, right? Hidan shrugged with a grin on his face. I don't know, I don't care. All I know is that I got some entertainment with my breakfast, and that ain't a bad thing. Yoruichi shook her head. So do you want me to help you train your powers today? A positive grunt came from Hidan. Sure, why not? Uzumaki brat said I'm supposed to get cracking on learning how to do more than just a Seiro, but the Seiro is so badass though. He whined. At that moment, Omaida and Emu walked into the dining room. Why did I just sense Soifon Taicho's Ryatsu spike? Omaida asked before seeing Soifon's body with an uncharacteristically happy look on her face. What? Why did she get out of her gigai? He asked, rather alarmed by the fact that she did such. To wring Uzumaki brat's neck. Hidan supplied helpfully. Elsewhere in Karakura town, Naruto was frantically running for his life on the rooftops, jumping between them to keep going and stay off of the streets. I swear this is total deja vu, he muttered to himself, as he looked down at the butterfly mark on his chest. Yeah, total deja vu. He turned around to find Soifon still hot on his heels. Oh, what's the matter, Queen Bee? You can't catch me here. And you were so much more forceful in the Soul Society too. I'm under a power limiter, you asshole. I'm barely at 30%. Soifon snapped at him with her shikai out. And I got you once already. Just hold still and let me finish the job. I let you hit me the first time, Naruto said with a laugh. Now chill out before we get busted. Normal people could actually get lucky and see me. You can't hit me, and there's no way I'm going to let you. Don't chase me all the way outside of the city. I swear I'll ditch you on the other end of the country and make you find your own way back to the base. Soifon growled. Stupid limiters. She wasn't going to release enough of her power to adversely affect the environment and the humans around her. She just needed enough to shut Naruto up. If she were allowed enough power to use her Shinko, she probably would. Who could possibly see us? No one can sense us except for Kurosaki Ichigo and his friends, she said as they continued to run. Soifon placed her hand out towards Naruto and took careful aim. Her index and middle finger pointed at him. This move should be low level enough to slow him down without much fanfare, so she could end his life. Bakudo number 1. Sigh. Naruto felt a pull, and then felt his arms locked behind his back. The way Naruto ran, from his time as a shinobi, was leaning far forward for speed with arms straight back behind him as a counter-balance. Now those same arms were bent and pinned to his back, throwing off his forward balance quite spectacularly due to the speed he was already traveling at. Thus when Naruto slipped before reaching the edge of one roof and flying forward to smack into the side of another, he had no way to really stop his forward momentum or brace his face, due to his arms stuck behind his back. Naruto fell down into an alley and bounced off of a dumpster top hard before falling to the ground, groaning at not expecting that kind of thing from Soifon so brazenly. He stood back up without the use of his arms. You do know that this isn't going to keep me here at all, don't you? He then ducked a kick intended for his head and jumped away. It'll keep you here long enough to kill you, Soifon said before attempting to stab him, only for Naruto to dodge her every move with an expressionless face. Eventually he smirked as one of his hands flew from his back and grabbed the arm that had Suzumabachi attached to it. What? Wow, Naruto said, holding back the blade arm with relative ease. You really aren't at full power, are you? If I had done that in the Serite, I probably would have lost that hand. You broke my Kido, she said. Naruto shrugged. I break a lot of things. You say that like it was hard to do. I broke one stronger than that before from Yamamoto Jiji, and you aren't even at full power. He then lifted her off of the ground with one hand as he held their arm above his, and her heads and grinned at her due to the close proximity. Don't tell me you're jealous of me, and Yoroichi-chan Queen Bee. You know I love you too. Soifon growled and swung her leg low to kick him in the junk, only for it to be narrowly blocked by his other forearm. Naruto gave her a dry look with a twitching eye. I really wish you wouldn't do stuff like that. Yoroichi-chan likes that part of me, and I'm rather fond of it too. He then dropped her when she punched him in the face. Gah. So angry. You're damn right I'm angry. You sullied Yoroichi-sama. Naruto held his nose that he felt was about to bleed, while dodging Soifon's strikes with her Zanpakuto, and keeping her at bay with kicks that missed, but kept the smaller woman out of range of hitting his butterfly mark. He did this until he got another cut on his leg, that formed another butterfly mark. One was bad news, two was stepping into the territory of odds he didn't want to test. Technically we sullied each other, Naruto said, still holding his nose before deciding he had allowed Soifon to vent enough. Fuck this. I'm not going out like this. Later Queen Bee, I'll see you when you calm down at home, he said before backflipping out of the way of another slash onto a wall. Soifon jumped after him, but Naruto jumped higher and bounced off of wall after wall, until he finally reached the rooftop. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Have fun picking the real me out of the lineup, he said as Soifon reached the roof, and watched dozens of him scatter from the large puff of smoke. Damn it, she said before picking the direction more than a few went off into, hoping she had selected correctly. They were totally indistinguishable from the original. They all even had the same amount of energy in them, it seemed. After a few seconds, a sigh of relief sounded out and Naruto appeared, laying down on the roof with a camouflage sheet over his body. You cute, fast, and violent my lovely Queen Bee, but I'm the greatest ninja that has ever lived. I do stuff that people forgot about. The butterfly marks on him vanished and he let out a pleased laugh, and she's quit because she knows she can't catch me anymore. He resealed the sheet in a scroll and jumped down the roof back into the alley, whistling his usual jaunty tune as he walked out of the alley and through the streets, although he wasn't aware of a pair of eyes that had been able to see what had happened in the alley across the street. Moments ago, Urasawa Tatsuki wasn't particularly in the best mood. Her best friend Orihime had been gone for over a month and a half to who knows where, and when she finally came back, she wasn't exactly forthcoming with where she had been. Saying she had been visiting a relative that lived elsewhere, but not really being able to say what she had been doing while she was gone. Orihime was smiling brightly and chattering away about how she was so happy to see her cousin, and Tatsuki had almost had enough, about to call her friend on her alibi of where she had been for the entire summer. School started next week. Before she could say anything, across the street in an alleyway, there was a crash that grabbed her attention. What was that? Tatsuki asked, planning to go over and see what was wrong. Should we go see? Maybe someone's in trouble. Orihime nodded and they both walked over only to find a blonde guy dodging attacks from a woman with a small blade in her hand while holding his nose. Naruto? And is that one of those captains from the Soul Society? Tatsuki watched the scene in confusion. I don't understand. Is she being mugged by that guy or is it the other way around? I can't tell. Her eyes then widened when the blonde guy jumped off of the walls comprising the alley and seamlessly made his way to the roof. Whoa. How the hell did he do that? That looked like that stuff on TV. Parker, it was actually pretty cool. She then noticed something else when she remembered the specific marks on his face. Wait, was it the guy that showed up for one day during the last week of school? Now Orihime wasn't aware of exactly what Naruto wanted people to know about him, but she did know that Tatsuki wasn't supposed to know about Naruto's powers or especially about Shinigami. I don't know, I didn't really see them that well. It was dark. She answered rather frantically, getting Tatsuki to look at her with suspicion. It doesn't matter now, he's gone. Tatsuki frowned but conceded the point to her friend. Even if she could get up there, he was probably long gone. Giving the rooftop one last look, she shrugged and turned, with Orihime following her. So weird, she thought as they walked away, Orihime chattering brightly again, telling her about her vacation, but actually not saying anything. She stopped when they both heard the echo of a bright whistle from the alley. Ducking behind the end of the corner, they both watched Naruto walk out of the alley with a rather pleased look on his face, and turn away from their direction as he began walking. While I'm out here I might as well take care of some business. They heard him say to himself as he kept walking, pulling out a cell phone. You guys need to learn how to pick up your damn phone, I swear. Look, I'm coming over, and you guys are obviously not going to get this, so I'm wasting my time. He said, turning around his own corner to disappear from sight. That is the guy, Tatsuki said. I'd never forget a face like that. Who else would ever have whisker marks on their face? I don't know, Naruto said from behind both Orihime and Tatsuki. Maybe if I ever had any kids, it would be a sign of my lineage. He grinned when they both turned around abruptly, but frowned when he found that he had to block a punch from Tatsuki, due to her surprise. He let go of her hand and shook out the one he used to block. Damn, unnecessary. His thought had something else entirely behind them. Holy crap, this chick has more chakra than I've felt from anyone in years. Now when he said chakra he meant both physical and spiritual energy combined. If things were based with him on pure spiritual energy, Ichigo would have the most by far. Orihime's actually dwarfed Tatsuki's as well. But she must have trained hard or something, or had some kind of latent descent from someone with a good amount. He couldn't even feel most people honestly. Over time most energy had become purely physical, and people only had enough chakra to survive. Something about this girl brought her spiritual energy up enough for him to say she had a good amount of chakra. Tatsuki pulled her fist back, surprised that someone actually blocked an attack from her. He didn't even look like it had even registered with him that he had been attacked despite the fact that he was kind of staring. Who the hell are you, and why were you sneaking up on us? Why were you two stalking me? He fired back with an amused smirk on his face. And I'm Uzumaki Naruto. What's your name, pretty, violent girl? He leaned back out of the way of a kick. That didn't really prove my name for you wrong. Tatsuki-chan, please don't try to hurt Naruto. He's not a bad person. Orihime pleaded, trying to keep Tatsuki from pushing Naruto to do something mean to put her down. Tatsuki stopped at her friend's behest and turned to her. Orihime, how do you know this guy? We didn't even talk to him in school that day. Orihime thought hard for an answer before something hit her and she spoke. This is my cousin, Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow and Tatsuki didn't seem convinced. This is your cousin? He sure doesn't seem to be anything like you, she said before turning to Naruto, who seemed to be staring off in space with his mouth open. Oi. What are you looking at like that? Naruto noticed that Tatsuki was talking to him and zoned back into focus. Oh sorry. I was just thinking. I made waffles for breakfast today, and I was thinking of a kick-ass new topping. Maybe ramen noodles. He snapped his fingers. Hell yeah. I'm seriously going to try that later. I wonder what ramen topping would go best with waffles. Tatsuki almost turned green just thinking about it. That sounds good. Orihime chimed in. I'll see for myself what that tastes like. Do you want me to make you some, Naruto? Tatsuki looked between the two and sighed. Okay, I can see the resemblance now. She then gave a suspicious look at Naruto. Wait, if you're Rihime's cousin, why didn't you talk to her or do anything with her while you were at school? Naruto shrugged. Because she has her own friends and her own thing going for her in school. I don't want Rihime's friends to talk to me just because they think they have to because of her. And I'm not going to intrude on her life like that. I'm better than that. He lied seamlessly. He wouldn't even have been there if he hadn't had to be. Tatsuki still wasn't convinced. And why did you only go for that one day? I didn't see you again for the rest of the term. And why didn't you stay with the Rihime? Naruto has his own place. Rihime cut in suddenly, trying to bail Naruto out, and he was only there that day to see the school that he'd be going to in the fall, right Naruto? She said with a rather desperate sounding tone of voice, eyes so wide and almost pleading him to say yes. He could hardly stand it. Fuck school. Naruto thought to himself before grinning at Rihime. Yep. You've got it, sweetheart. Tatsuki took all of this in and smirked, thinking she finally had a way to either expose one thing or the other. So Naruto, Rihime's cousin, where did she go for summer vacation? Did she do anything fun? Rihime's smile became incredibly strained, as Tatsuki caught both of their lies right then and there. But Naruto just sighed and rubbed his temple. She's so sweet. She probably told you she had a great time, but I know she was so bored the entire time, poor girl. He smiled sadly. I took her with me on a trip to Kyoto, so that I could finish up business, before I moved here to help her out. Both of us live alone, but I have means to support myself, and I wanted to help her out without her having to rely on our other relatives. He walked over and pulled Rihime towards him in a half hug. I'm not living with her though. I don't want to cramp her style. Tatsuki frowned at him. Well, why not? I'm glad you're here to help her, but I think it would be better if Rihime lived with some family. You don't seem like a bad guy, I think. Rihime shook her head. No, Naruto's a good person. So why not live with him? Tatsuki wondered out loud. You two seem like you'd get along. Where do you even live, Naruto? Naruto blinked. Old industrial district. Rihime and Tatsuki looked at him strangely. What? Property is super cheap over there, and the place didn't need much work. My place is awesome. That was a lie. For him it wasn't much work. For anyone else it would have taken forever. Tatsuki nodded. It was a strange place for someone to live for sure, but from the way Naruto dressed there was hardly anything wrong with him that she could see. So you said you can support yourself and Rihime, and you said you own a great place. What do you actually do? Publishing company. Naruto said right off the top of his head without really thinking, actually impressing himself with that one. Where the hell did that come from? Holy shit, that's a great idea. Skip dealing with the middleman every few years for a new copy of the books. I can do it my damn self, and that can be my cover like Arrancar's shop. Sweet. He grinned, pleased with his lie. That would soon be a reality. Yep, I run a publishing company that I managed to get a hold of. Moved it to Karakura town. That wasn't too far out of left field, was it? Kids own things and had tons of money all the time. Tatsuki's eyes whitened, as did Rihime's, but she sculled her expression rather quickly. Damn, this was an elaborate lie. Good thing Naruto had taken the ball Rihime had given him at the start, and ran with it. Tatsuki was actually pretty amazed at that. Wow, you're no older than us. That's really impressive. So what's it called? Konoha Publishing. He again said without missing a beat. Damn, I'm good. I haven't lied like this in forever. He continued speaking. Yeah, we're pretty obscure, but we'll be making our money in no time. We've got a major title about to come out that'll put us on the map. Wow, Naruto. Rihime said, getting caught up in Naruto's lie herself. I've got to come by and see it sometime. It sounds great. She then froze as she realized what she said, and the look of horror on Naruto's face told her that he felt exactly the same as she did. A shrug came from Tatsuki. That actually sounds cool to me. So when can we stop by and see the place? What's the address? Naruto said blankly as his brain tried to come up with a way out of his situation. He stupidly held up 3 fingers. The address is 735 Murasaki Road. I'm going to be busy for a while, so 3 days. Sounds good. Tatsuki said, grabbing Rihime's arm. You can talk to your cousin anytime you want, Rihime. I have to go home and get some things. Nice meeting you, Naruto. She said as she walked away. Rihime waved to him with an apologetic look on her face as she followed. Naruto waved back at her, giving her a confident grin that told her everything was going to be okay, before he decided to go on his way. That girl could see me in Soifon, and that punch of hers was the strongest thing I've felt any normal person throw at me in a while. He went into thought. I wonder if it would be too late for her. It's worth a try, to see if she could. I'll try it when she comes over with Rihime in a few days. Naruto's squad's home base. Basement training ground. Soifon walked through the entire building with Yoruichi, after returning from her failed chase of Naruto. Apparently in the world of the living, his ability to hide his spiritual power signature was far greater than she had expected it to be. After destroying the clones, she chased down she was unable to get a lock on him again, so she simply returned. He would be back eventually. Yoroichi-sama, I don't see how you could possibly have allowed that man to do such things with their consent. At first Yoroichi had been amused by Soifon's disdain at finding out about the night she had with Naruto, but it was getting to be somewhat troublesome now. Well, I did. He had it. And no, you won't be doing anything to his reproductive organs like you've so descriptively threatened, so calm down. You're acting like Naruto is pure evil or something. He's the best person you've met in years, and you know it. You actually liked him until you found this out. Yes, but... Soifon tried to dispute before Yoroichi cut her off. But nothing. That should be it. I'm an adult, not a child. Yoroichi said with finality as she stretched her arms out while walking to the area where Hidan would be waiting to train. You're acting silly. A smirk then came to her face, unless of course you were angry at him for a more personal reason. I don't remember you ever having a boyfriend, so I guess that could be it. You're mad at him for not letting you. Yoroichi-sama, Soifon said with a red face. 100 years and she could still let herself be teased by the woman. Honestly, she was almost as bad as Uzumaki was. Yoroichi laughed slightly before finding Hidan and his Gigai laying down in the middle of some strange circle, looking like he was dead. Hidan, what are you doing? Hidan's eyes popped open and he sat up like a corpse before he explained, I can't kill you in this fight, so I was just praying to Joshin-sama for forgiveness. That was my ritual of doing so. He then noticed Soifon with her. Is it alright that she's here for this? From what I've been told, she's going to cause a fuss over this. Yoroichi nodded. Go ahead. If she panics without listening to reason first, I'll handle her. Don't worry about it. Hidan shrugged as he grabbed the cylinder housing his retractable pike to reveal a skull like the one on the bottom of Arrancar's cane, and pressed it to his chest before looking at Yoroichi once more, getting emotion from her saying to get on with it. Hidan slammed the cylinder roughly into his chest, and the room was instantly filled with a thick ryatsu that Soifon had to take a moment to adjust to. She felt the presence of a hollow, but only saw Hidan, who stood there in a black cloak with red clouds, open down to his chest, to reveal what looked to be bone in the form of some necklace attached to his body. He looked exactly the same except with a rather large wicked-looking scythe in hand, his Gigai at his feet. Yep, that's me. Soifon's hand went to hers on Pakto, before she remembered what Yoroichi said. What is he? He feels like a hollow, but doesn't look like one. He didn't look any different at all, except for the aforementioned things, and why is his spiritual energy so powerful? A hollow this strong shouldn't be able to exist without being noticed. Yoroichi walked over to Hidan and poked at his Gigai with her foot. That's what the Gigai that hides his energy is for. This is an Arrancar, and Aizen's growing army is full of them. Hidan was a Vasto Lorde before becoming an Arrancar. Blame Naruto for that. She finished with a frown. Hey, I like being a hollow, or an Arrancar, or whatever I am this week. Hidan said, slightly offended at the way she referred to being a hollow as a bad thing. He then saw Soifon go for hers on Pakto. Oi, no trying to kill the help. I work for Uzumaki and I have diplomatic immunity, so suck it. Yoroichi held Soifon's arm from trying to go for her blade. He's telling the truth. One of Naruto's perks was that he could pick his team, and they only answered directly to him, and whoever else he directed to be under him. I guess it's his way of trying to protect anyone he deems to be his comrade. It's admirable actually, she said with a smile. Soifon looked at her mistress, smiling as if she had a crush, while talking about Naruto's deal set up with the Goatee 13, but tried ignoring it to keep asking questions. So I can't attack him even though he's a hollow. Yoroichi thought about it for a moment. Well, you could, but Naruto wouldn't be very happy about it at all. Besides, Naruto assured me about 1,000,000 times already when I was concerned about it, that if Hidan went off the handle he could stop him. Yes. She has the rules of engagement in her head now. Hidan snapped, tapping his foot impatiently. Now can we train already? Which one of you am I fighting? You're both looking like you want a piece of me, especially the Shinigami captain girl. Yoroichi smirked at him and used flash steps to get far away from Hidan's Gigai, so it wouldn't be destroyed during the fight. Show me what you've got, Hidan. Gladly. Hidan said, before disappearing with a low booming noise signifying his movement. Yoroichi was surprised that he had picked up on his speed technique so fast, but was prepared for him, dodging a swing of his scythe with a back handspring. How did you do that? Yoroichi asked him. You got a speed technique down that recreates flash steps. It's only been one day. Hidan smirked at her. Another of those moves I gleaned from those 3 Arrancar women that took me to that Aizen chump. They explained all of their moves to me, and I listened. That was so neato. And I got it quickly, because I'm not exactly slow in my Gigai. When I was alive, I was used to moving pretty fast. Soifon seemed rather impressed, so it looks like Uzumaki didn't get someone useless after all. Still, how can we trust him as a hollow, or Arrancar? Yoroichi set herself in a ready stance to prepare to fight Hidan. Naruto trusts him enough to have him on the team, and Hidan's done very well so far. There's no real reason besides his cosmetic appearance to think we can't trust him. Now begin. Hidan rushed towards Oroichi, swinging his scythe in a manic fashion from every angle, but she remained just out of his reach. As she analyzed his attack pattern or the lack thereof, he knows how to use this weapon, that's for sure. He's precise and surgical with how he swings this thing, but he doesn't seem to hold anything back during his attack, as if he doesn't know how to shift from attacking to defending. She thought as she stayed out of his range, as if he doesn't care that he could take damage like this. Though with the style he told us he had during his time alive, I'm not surprised. Suddenly, Hidan let go of his scythe, and let it slip out of his hand, to fly at Oroichi. Her eyes whitened when he swung it at her, holding onto it by the cable attached to the weapon under his robe. She jumped back far, and decided it was time to really start seeing what he was made of. Oroichi dashed towards Hidan and threw a hard kick that he lifted the pole of his scythe to block with. However, the force of her kick sent him sliding backwards into a boulder, cracking it with his body. Okay, that was actually really good. Hidan said as he walked towards her again, but you're going to have to kick a little bit harder, if you really want to hurt me. He said with a grin as he placed his scythe on his back. New move time. Another one. Oroichi asked him with her hands on her hips. How are you getting these so fast? Ask Uzumaki, brat. We were ninja in our time. We're used to feeling and manipulating the energy inside of us. This whole stuff is so fucking basic, it's pretty much instinctual. Hidan said, cocking a fist back despite the fact that he was nowhere near Oroichi. His fist began to glow red with a slight amount of swirling energy. Bolo. He threw his punch at Oroichi, and from his fist flew a blast of energy that came at Oroichi so fast her eyes widened before it exploded, making contact with her. Soifon, gasped, Oroichi-sama. She then turned towards Hidan, who was looking at his fist, as if he were trying to examine it. That was like a Seiro except far faster and unconcentrated. What kinds of other powers do these Arrancar have? Man, Hidan complained, looking at his hand. That was kind of cool, but the Seiro is so much cooler. Way bigger bang for my buck. He looked at the smoke provided from his attack hitting Oroichi. You alive in there? The smoke cleared to reveal Oroichi standing there with her hands up, arms fully extended to block his attack. Her palms were slightly singed, but other than that she was unharmed. She actually had a rather serene look on her face. That was pretty okay. No real kick behind it though. You must really not know exactly how to use that attack, she said, getting a tick mark to form on Hidan's head. Let's see what else you can do, baby Arrancar. I wouldn't be standing still this time either. Heh. Hidan chuckled cruelly as he pulled his scythe from his back. Bring it on by. Oroichi disappeared from her spot, and before Hidan could fully turn, he found himself kicked hard, and sent flying past Soifon, who moved out of the way to avoid his body. Soifon looked down at Hidan as Oroichi walked over next to her and did the same. The dark-skinned female looked down at Hidan, who had a look of a deer in the headlights on his face. Don't get cocky. You're good, but you're not used to your body, and you don't have whatever powers you have as a shinobi in that form. Only in your Gigai. That's why Naruto could threaten to kill you if you started doing evil things. Hidan's Gigai could not be killed, much like his original human body, but his soul could. Naruto could just pull Hidan's soul out and kill him while he was in Arrancar form, since he could die in that form. Getting up off of the ground, Hidan dusted his cloak off, and growled at Oroichi before Soifon cut in. You have raw power, tons of it. But from what I can see, you attack arrogantly with no actual battle plan except to deal out damage of any kind. He turned to Soifon, who had her arms crossed, as she explained what she had gleaned from what had gone down. You fight nothing like Uzumaki. He's far more elusive than you are. Hidan rolled his eyes at the comparison. Uzumaki Brad and I are two different breeds of warrior. Uzumaki tries to overpower enemies, and when he can't he uses deception and rudimentary tactics to get an opening, to finish with something big. Soifon's eye twitched, having dealt with both spectrums of Naruto's combat style in the past. On the other hand, I am a killing machine. No matter how long it takes, I will hit you and you will die. Simple as that. Not anymore. Oroichi said, you have actual skill with that scythe. You have powers you can use now. You will learn how to use them the right way, or I'll make sure Naruto doesn't let you go back to Hueco Mundo. Our enemies are dangerous and powerful, and having you go in with a half-assed battle plan like that isn't going to work. Before you say that you'll fight in your human body so that you can't die, remember that a hollow can pull your soul out of your Gigai. Hidan narrowed his eyes at her. And how exactly are you going to make sure of anything? Oroichi smirked cruelly. I'm not just a pretty face, Hidan. I'm stronger than you, for more than one reason. And I can convince Naruto to keep you back here because he trusts my judgment. I could just make him fight you himself so he could give his own opinion. She looked over at Soifon. How would you like to help me work this idiot into fighting shape? He's going to need the experience. Hidan looked between them as he saw Soifon finally draw her Zanpakuto. I'm starting to see what Uzumaki meant about strong women in his life, he said before slapping himself hard, preparing for a long day. Fine then. Bring it on. All three disappeared with their respective speed techniques. Outside of the Vizards hideout, Naruto stood out front of the warehouse banging on the door belligerently. Open the goddamn door, you jerks. I will blow this door down in 3 seconds. he said, forming a Rasengan in his right hand. 3, 2, on. The door suddenly flew open, and a sandal landed smack against his face. Shut up, you idiot. Hiyori yelled at him as the sandal slid down his face. Naruto had a deadpan expression on his face. Don't you know how to call before you come over, or are you too stupid to use a phone now? Naruto growled and stomped over to her, grabbing her by the back collar of her tracksuit, and lifting her off of the ground. Do you know how to answer a phone, or better yet check a fucking answering machine? Don't pop that shit to me, I am not in the mood today, a little lady. He held up her sandal and placed it back on her foot. Next time I'll make you eat this thing, he said as he walked inside, still holding on to her, keeping her at arm's length. Let go of me, asshole. Hiyori yelled at him, trying to get him to drop her by punching and kicking at him, but was unable to reach him. No, I don't feel like having 3 people that are way shorter than me try to beat me up in the same day, Naruto replied, not letting her go, besides still being violent. Did you miss me while I've been gone? He asked as he finally dropped her in a chair in the warehouse, getting the attention of everyone else inside. Hell no. Hiyori snapped at him, why are you even here? Naruto answered bluntly, I got chased out of my house and decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and come see you guys. Hiyori huffed but then smirked at him, kick any Shinigami ass. Naruto grinned at her, I kick so much ass. Turned the place upside down. He looked at the rest of the Vizards, join the squad, damn it. I want your help, and I know you want to take a swing at Aizen. Shinji walked over with his usual sardonic look on his face. You already know the terms, Naruto. Get Ichigo to us so we can teach him how to use his powers, and we might think about it. Yeah, whatever. Naruto mumbled, those are the terms for you. Not everyone else. Besides, school starts next week. If I just run up on the kid and find his house, that would just scare the hell out of him and make him distrust me. Wait. He dug into his ear and flicked what he got from it of Shinji, getting the man to scowl at him. I think he kind of trusts me from all of the Cerate stuff, but not by much. So how long? Kensei asked from his area of the warehouse, doing curls with a dumbbell. Are we talking weeks or months to get him to show up here? Naruto shrugged, I don't know. Time's irrelevant for me, remember, I'm immortal. He felt someone tackle him from behind, and hold onto him around the neck. Hey, how you doing? Mashiro was hanging off of Naruto's back. Did you miss me, fish cake? Naruto chuckled, almost getting killed kind of takes up your space for wandering thought in your head. He looked over at Hiyori and gestured to the woman with lime green hair on his back. You see, why can't you be as nice as her? She never hits me unless we're already sparring, but that doesn't count. Hiyori rolled her eyes, because you're both 2 halves of the same idiot. Both Naruto and Mashiro stuck their tongues out at her. There's my point exactly. Naruto let Mashiro down. Yeah, whatever, grumpy. He said as he walked towards the center of the room. So do you guys just want to stay here in this warehouse doing nothing until the end of days? Or do any of you lazy bastards want an actual job? Love, Rose, and Lisa looked up from reading their mangas and looked at Naruto strangely. Now by actual job, what do you mean exactly? Lisa asked him. Naruto rubbed his chin. Well, honestly, you'd still be doing next to nothing, but it's more of a cover. Something like Arrancar's little shop. Only what I do is actually going to make me some money. He quipped, does anyone actually buy stuff from that place? Everyone shrugged in confusion. It doesn't matter. Talk to me in a bit when I get everything set up. This is going to be the best idea I've had in years. 3 days later, Naruto's base. Naruto sat on the roof of the building in a state of meditation alongside Yoruichi, who had Soifon with her, as she wouldn't let Naruto alone with Yoruichi again, as long as she had the option. Yoruichi in her cat form looked at Naruto in amusement. Only you could get yourself into a situation like this. What would you know about it? He replied with a smirk on his face. I was lying my ass off until Orihime got caught up in the awesome of my lie. Sweet girl, like her a lot. Screwed us both over though. He cracked open an eye, to look out on the very empty street of the basically abandoned district of town. Oh well, maybe I can use this. He looked over at Soifon. When are you wanting to go check out Hueco Mundo? He asked as he shut his eyes again. What can you tell me about it? Soifon answered, trying to keep her own meditation going as she sat in her gigai. I was dispatched with the understanding that you and Yoruichi-sama had already been there yourselves. Naruto frowned. We weren't there for long before things kind of hit the fan. There was one Arrancar that was so strong. That Tiahari Bell girl, and Aizen supposed to have an army's worth of them. Soifon turned and looked at Naruto, who seemed to have a serious look on his face, as he thought about it. But Hidan is an Arrancar too. A strong one from what I've seen. He's not used to his powers yet. Yoruichi said, he is strong, and he'll get stronger when he gets his body mechanics worked out, but for now he's not good enough to deal with that woman we saw. About Hueco Mundo itself, Naruto said, trying to explain what he saw to Soifon. Under the surface is a forest of trees made of minerals. That's where a lot of hollows live, but we didn't fight any that could potentially beat us. There were tons in hiding though. Yoruichi could feel them, and even see tons of them when we fell in. Yoruichi picked up where Naruto left off. There was nothing on the surface that we could see from the little amount of travel we did there. It was just a white desert, no life whatsoever. The woman in black cat form let out a yawn, and hopped onto Soifon's shoulder where she curled up. If there's exploration to be done in Hueco Mundo, that's where I would check next. I'm going, Naruto said with finality. There's still so much about all of this I don't understand. Maybe if I go, I can get some answers. Soifon nodded. Naruto would be useful for something like this. He had been there more than any of them, and he was no slouch in a fight, to say the very least. Well then I'll prepare a plan of action, to take within a day or two. Omaida and Kurasuchi Fukatecho should come with us. Yoichi jumped down from Soifon's shoulder. I'll stay here and help Hidan get up to speed with his powers. Maybe I'll call Kisuke for help, he's supposed to be on this team too. Good. Naruto said before his eyes opened up and he stood. In the meantime, it's time to put on a show, if you know what I mean. What are you going to do? Yoichi asked Naruto as she saw how relaxed about this whole thing he was. He was close to being discovered, and he didn't seem to care. Naruto pointed down the street in the direction he could feel Tatsuki and Orihime coming towards. What do you think? Try to sense out the person that's with Orihime. Go ahead. He saw Yoichi's eyes whiten as she opened her mouth to speak. No, she doesn't have any powers because her abilities physically overshadow her abilities spiritually, like Chad, but only times 10, since his spiritual energy is way higher than hers. So Yoichi said in a testing manner. So Naruto said, mimicking the cat before continuing on, that means she's mine. Soifon's eyes shot open as she turned to Naruto in shock. That is incredibly irresponsible, Uzumaki. What are you thinking? Naruto didn't rise to a spirited defense, choosing to calmly explain himself instead. She saw us with our little lover spat in town. Luckily she didn't dwell on it for too long. She has enough spiritual awareness about her to do that, and that makes her a target the way the others were. She already mistrusts Orihime's summer vacation, so why keep a bad life for no good reason? She can't fight the way Kurasaki's other friends can. Soifon said, as if she was speaking to a child. Naruto smirked like a man with a plan. Not yet. Give me a few months with her, and we'll see how that tune of yours changes. With that he started walking to the stairs on the roof to head inside. I have to get her to believe me, and see if she actually wants to give it a shot first. Yoichi teased him as he disappeared down the stairs. You're playing with fire Naruto, she said in a sing-song voice. Haven't been burned yet, beautiful. He said before heading inside for good. After walking through the rather uninspiring section of town that Naruto's office lay in, Orihime was getting kind of nervous. She hadn't known Naruto for that long, but he seemed to be a wily guy. A nice guy, one of the genuinely brightest guys she had met by far, but still the craftiest person she had ever met, except for maybe Urahara Kisuke. If he hadn't come up with a good excuse as to why it wouldn't be a good idea to come to his office, then it had to be okay to keep up with the story of him being her cousin. She had to admit, she just blurted that out, but he just ran with it flawlessly thus far. It was actually very impressive. And then she and Tatsuki came to his office, and stopped out front and looked at the place. A rather large place, 6 stories, a rather burnt orange looking building, with the front having a one-way glass wall that they couldn't see through, but it seemed on the level. The only thing was a distinct lack of a sign out front to let anyone know where they were. Well, Tatsuki said, looking the area over, this is the place. He said that his place was awesome, and it doesn't look bad so far. Though living out of his office seems kind of weird. She said, looking over to the orange-haired girl with her. Orihime instantly snapped out of her state of awe that this might actually end well and rubbed the back of her neck sheepishly. Yeah, well, Naruto works hard all the time, so I'm not very surprised that he stays here. He lives his work after all. She said, laughing nervously. Come on, let's go in. The two headed inside to find a front room lobby of sorts. Many chairs, shiny office-like floors. A fantastic view outside if there had been anything worth looking at out there, and doors to whatever was behind this lobby room. At the back wall of the room was a rather wide desk with 3 chairs behind it in certain spots, but for the moment there was only one person behind it. A woman with blue eyes and blonde hair and long pigtails on the side of her head sat in the middle behind the desk, wearing a tan button-up blouse and a black skirt. She smiled brightly and spoke to the 2 girls that had walked in. Hello, is there any way I can help the 2 of you today? Tatsuki blinked and looked around. Shouldn't there be more people in a place like this? The receptionist's smile dropped a little before she perked back up and answered, well, we're still rather new to town, you see. This is actually my first day working here. Is there anything you 2 would like? Orihime stepped in at that point. Do you know where Uzumaki Naruto is? He kind of invited us here today. The woman grinned in recognition. Oh, he said that someone would be by today asking for him specifically. She said as she got on a phone and dialed a few numbers. Yes, boss, there are a few young women here for you. I'll tell them to sit tight for a moment. She hung the phone up and addressed Orihime and Tatsuki. Boss will be with you in just a moment. After a moment, Naruto came from the back wearing clothes more casual than yesterday. A dark blue shirt with an elaborate picture of a coastal storm on it, and jeans. Hey you guys, what's going on? He said with a toothy grin. This is really your place? Orihime asked, rather wide-eyed as they went into the back, and he began to lead them around. Naruto had made a bunch of clones and henged them to go around looking like they were fixing the place up. They were, but it was more for aesthetic realism than anything else at the moment. Even the receptionist at the front was a Kage Bunshin under his Warrick no Jutsu. Yep, he said proudly. Before I came here right before summer started, I won the place off of the old owner, the drunk. He noticed Atsuki looking at him strangely. What? I'm very good at poker and you get into some interesting stuff when you grow up without any family. Anyway, I renamed it, got some funding to turn the company around, and moved them to Arrancar so that I could help Orihime out, and start working with a famous author that's looking to us to put his next book out. He was lying so hard at this point he thought some higher power would strike him down right on the spot. Tatsuki raised an eyebrow, and you're still in high school. Naruto nodded with a frown, waste of my time, but my vice president is always like, no one's going to take you or the company seriously if you don't finish your education, Naruto. Blah, blah, he said before shivering, but if I don't go then something terrible will befall me. She's already threatened me with something I can't risk losing. And he couldn't. This was actually not a lie at all. Yoruichi wanted him to go to high school like a chico, while she ran things during the daytime to maintain a cover. When he violently, loudly, and emphatically disputed, she threatened to withhold sex from him until he did, and that was the end of that losing battle for him. What was 3 years anyway? He had all the time in the world. At that moment, Hidan and his Gigai walked out of the kitchen eating a sandwich, and stopped as he saw Naruto walking with the two girls. What's up? Naruto palmed his face and pointed at Hidan. This is Hidan. Hidan works for me. He's my assistant. Hidan scowled at being called an assistant. Assistant my ass crack Uzumaki. I don't do anything to make your life easier, if anything I make your life more complicated. Naruto shook his head, still holding his face in his hands, and the sad thing about it is, he's absolutely right. He's an old friend of mine that I gave a job to. He said as Hidan walked away, continuing to eat his sandwich. Orihime. The girl in question turned around to see Yoruichi standing there, back in her human form, wearing casual clothes. How are you? Yoruichi. Orihime said in surprise at seeing her again. Here of all places, what are you doing here? The female Shinigami winked at her before answering, I'm Naruto's vice president. He has a decent enough business plan, but his execution leaves a lot to be desired in most cases. That's where I come in. Didn't he tell you during summer vacation about it? Naruto smiled at Yoruichi. I'll tell you what, why don't you take Orihime and talk to her for a bit? I'm sure Tatsuki has some questions she wants to ask me herself, don't you? Tatsuki looked at him in surprise, but nodded. She planned on coming back later to do so, but since he was volunteering in the first place. Alright then. Yoruichi chirped brightly, latching onto Orihime and dragging her away despite her protests to the contrary, while Naruto and Tatsuki headed up to the roof. Once they were gone, Yoruichi let Orihime go. Naruto has to talk to your friend about something important. Her ability to see spirits, and what that means to her. Orihime's eyes widened, but I don't want Tatsuki-chan to be involved with any of this. Yoruichi shook her head. You don't have much of a choice in the matter. The way you gained spiritual awareness also resulted in your friend getting it. It's just that you developed the powers that I could work with. She has powers that Naruto can work with instead. The way she is, she'll be a more desirable target to hollows, but won't be able to defend herself the way you can. Orihime frowned, but nodded. Tatsuki-chan will always try to defend me even if she isn't strong enough. At least Naruto might be able to help her if she accepts, I guess. She then blinked after having a thought, but what is he going to do? Tatsuki-chan never got any powers like me or Sato-kun. Yoruichi shrugged. I don't know, but he said that was actually better. He had something for her. Her mood shifted to one that was far brighter. Anyway, this is our main base of operations. Would you like to find out more about what we're supposed to be doing here in the world of the living? Orihime nodded as Yoruichi dragged her along again. Well, it's a long story, so I might as well begin. On the roof, Naruto leaned against the wall of the stairwell that led back down to the inside of the building, as Tatsuki stood across from him staring at him intently. You can say whatever you want, you know. It's not going to offend me or anything if you're pissed or you don't like me. Tatsuki shook her head. It's not really that. I can usually read people, and tell when they have bad intentions, but you don't. I just want to make sure that Orihime is safe. Her original parents were very abusive, and excuse me if I'm kind of skeptical towards some random distant relative coming out of nowhere like you. Naruto nodded, taking her words to heart. He couldn't sense any lie in her tone. That's good. You just want to protect her. I like that. He sighed and leaned his head back to look up at the sky. Orihime is one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my entire life. To have someone like you look out for her is actually great. He lowered his head and gave her a stern glance. But do you know what there actually is to protect her from? Tatsuki took an involuntary step back at the change in tone from Naruto. What are you talking about? She kept stepping back as Naruto walked forward slowly. You can see spirits. He wasn't asking, he was stating it as a fact. There are things that are about to go on soon. Another kid in your class, Kurosaki Ichigo, he's going to have a spot in it as well, but I'm going to wait to talk to him. He has a very hard head. Wait, Ichigo? Tatsuki said. How do you know Ichigo? How much do you really want to know? Naruto asked her in return. If you don't want to know anymore or get involved, I'll wipe your mind right here, right now, and that will be that. It won't concern you. If you do decide to stick your nose further into it, then you won't be able to back out. Someone like you probably wouldn't anyway. Tatsuki narrowed her eyes on him. All I know is that you just alluded to Ichigo and Orihime being in danger, and I made a promise to keep her safe. Why are you telling me all of this? Naruto smirked and stopped moving towards her, starting to radiate ill intent. Because you deserve to know. We know you've got the desire to protect her and him. Now let's see if you've got what it takes to follow through with it, he said, alerting Tatsuki as she got into a fighting stance. Naruto held out one hand with his index finger up and out. One finger. That's all I'm going to need. Prove me wrong. Tatsuki bristled at what she thought was an insult. Are you insane? I'm the second strongest girl in Japan. And all you're going to use is one finger. Naruto's smirk turned malicious. You might be the second strongest woman in Japan, but I'm the strongest man in the entire world, ever. Period. He crooked his single finger towards himself as if to say bring it on. Tatsuki growled before running forward at Naruto and launching a punch intent on knocking his block off. Naruto simply lifted his hand and blocked the punch with his finger, raising an eyebrow in interest, as she managed to force his hand back a little bit. That was good. Guess how hard does this girl train? He thought as he shoved her back with a flick to the forehead. Tatsuki stumbled back halfway across the roof and rubbed the red mark on her head that formed from Naruto's flick. What? How did you do that with one finger? That's insane. Is that all you've got? He said chidingly. How could you even protect yourself with that kind of strength? And you want to help Orihime and Ichigo? He laughed. She ran back towards him and started trying to throw combination punches that Naruto blocked with just his finger, no matter what angle she tried coming at him from. She jumped in the air and dropped an axe kick that she was sure would get him when he just stepped back, letting her attack miss. Hey, you moved. Naruto held back a laugh. You expected me to stand still. She growled and stood up, attempting a rising uppercut, but missing when he leaned back just out of range. He placed his single finger on her forehead, getting her to freeze solid. You have very good technique. I wouldn't have to teach you hand to hand at least. You're fantastic at that. And I'm pretty sure, if I let you, you could knock me through a wall. You're pretty damn strong. He moved his hand down to tilt her chin up to make eye contact with him. Pretty cute too, you little tomboy. Jerk. She yelled, jumping back away from him. I'm going to kick your ass for that. So angry. Naruto said in amusement, and I would love to see you try. 10 minutes later, Naruto stood with his foot on Tatsuki's back as she lay on the ground exhausted. Not one time, she said, panting heavily. All those attacks, I never landed a single one, and you didn't hit me once until the end. Naruto simply jabbed his single finger into Tatsuki's belly after having seen enough. Naruto let his foot off of her, because you were rolled by your emotions for that fight. I piss you off, and you dropped most of your form. I was using your attack and flowing around it. It doesn't hurt that I'm way faster than you, but you seem to have some fighting experience. You're going to need that. She sat up and looked up at Naruto. Why? He kneeled down, looking her directly into the eyes as he put a hand on her head. I want you to close your eyes for me. She looked skeptical, but did as he asked. Just focus. Focus on building your energy and circulating it through your body. You know how to do that. Tatsuki nodded and steadied her breathing to go with Naruto's request. Naruto could feel the chakra going through her and smiled. Oh yeah, she's perfect for this. Tell me, Tatsuki-chan, do you want to be left out of the loop? Do you really want to know what Orihime was doing this summer? Her eyes snapped open, and she nodded. I should have figured that was a lie, after what you told me today. Naruto chuckled as a gleam came to his eye. Do you want to be my apprentice? Her eyes widened. You can use a specific kind of power inside of your body known as chakra, whether you know it or not. And because you trained so hard, and have had so much interaction with spirits before this, you have enough of it at your current age, that you can develop your skill with it. What does it do? Tatsuki wondered. Naruto made a cross-hand seal, and in a puff of smoke, next to him appeared a perfect copy of him. This can't be happening. I'm dreaming, right? You wish. Naruto said as his clone dispelled, and he extended his hand towards her. So do you want to be my apprentice? I'll tell you now, it's not going to be easy, and you will hate me with a fiery burning passion, because I need to get you up to snuff in a hurry, but from the amount of power you have, I don't think it will take that long. You're already perfect at hand-to-hand combat, and I don't even need to go over physical conditioning with you. Tatsuki thought about it for a moment. You say Orihime and Ichigo are already involved. Anyone else I know? Yep, he said plainly. I'm in, she said with a frown, not really liking being left in the dark. She grabbed Naruto's hand and shook it firmly, and when I see Ichigo again, I'm going to kick him in the stomach for hiding this from me. I knew something was weird about him during the end of the last semester. But, Naruto said brightly, helping her to his feet, come back next week and we can start. In the meantime, I want you to rest up and do everything fun that you want to do to your heart's content. Because after we start you aren't going to want to do anything that exerts energy in your spare time for a long time. Tasuki gave him an owlish look when she noticed how serious his voice was. Really? I don't joke about training Tasuki-chan. He said firmly, you're going to hate me. Her face turned to an excited smirk at the prospect of learning new ways of fighting from someone as strong as Naruto was. The only way I'll end up hating you is if you waste my time, Naruto-sensei. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.